Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Welcome to Financial Issues. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm your host, Shana. Financial Issues is a ministry that helps to educate people about financial issues from a biblical worldview. If you're not already a partner with us, we hope that you would consider becoming one. We are a listener and partner funded ministry, and for just $132 a year, you can become a partner with us where you'll get access to our biblically responsible investment strategy. We call that defunding darkness because we help you to screen out the companies in corporate America who are funding ungodly agendas like abortion, pornography, the LGBTQ agenda, human rights violations, and so many other things that grieve the heart of the Lord. We don't want to be involved with that junk. We also encourage you to fund the light, to be joyful, generous, and obedient givers, being a good steward of everything that the Lord has trusted you to manage. On today's show, we're going to answer some of the questions that you guys have sent in. We're also going to get a wrap on earnings season and encouragement from the scriptures. We'll be in Psalm 71:6 if you want to get a jump on it. Well, it's a wrap for first quarter earnings season 2025, and the results are pretty well in. There's just a few little stragglers, a few little straggling companies to report to finish up earnings season altogether. Now, 4 times a year, publicly traded companies give a public accounting of their successes or failures over the last 3 months, and then they tend to offer some guidance for what they see coming down the road. All of this is done because people invest in those companies, whether it's institutions or individual investors, and they have the right to see what they're going to be buying into, because whenever you buy stock, you are becoming an owner of publicly traded companies. So what they reported is that the blended year-over-year growth rate for the S&P 500 now stands at 13.6%. That means that their earnings grew 13.6%. This is the second consecutive quarter of double-digit earnings growth. That is a key indicator of fundamental strength in a company. Earnings surprises, about 78% of the companies that reported exceeded earnings per share estimates, surpassing the 5-year average of 77%. So revenue growth, the companies reported a blended revenue growth rate of 4.8%, with 62% of companies reporting revenues above estimates. So all of that is a mouthful, but it's just to say we had a pretty successful earnings season. However, economic uncertainties persist. The term uncertainty was mentioned by 84% or 451 of the 500 S&P companies that had earnings calls, the highest level since early 2020. And we all remember what was happening at that point in time. Additionally, tariff, the word tariff, was cited in 91% of earnings calls over the last 2 months. That's more than in any quarter in the last decade. Forward guidance, which is where the companies tell you what they see coming up, was foregone by most companies because they reported either prior to or in the middle of the unfolding trade saga. So Liberation Day, remember, was April the 2nd when all of the reciprocal tariffs and the calculations were announced, and that was the very beginning of earnings season. We didn't get an indication that trade talks were going okay with China until just recently. So most of the companies that had their earnings calls did have a lot more uncertainty than even what we have right now. Well, Walmart was one of the companies that did report, and they reported pretty good earnings, but they also said in their earnings calls that Walmart would likely be having to pass on some of the tariff cost to consumers, starting with price increases as soon as the end of May of this year, but certainly by June. Well, President Trump weighed in on this. The Trump administration weighed in on it. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday that Walmart will absorb some tariff costs after he spoke to their company's CEO. Watch this.
I was on the phone with Doug McMillon, the CEO of Walmart, yesterday, and Walmart is, in fact, going to, as you describe it, eat some of the tariffs that just as they did in 18, 19, and 20. The other thing, though, that we are seeing, that Doug passed along to me, that with their consumer, the single most important thing is the gasoline price, and gasoline prices have collapsed under President Trump.
All right. So President Trump also weighed in on Truth Social. He said, quote, Walmart made billions of dollars last year, far more than expected. Between Walmart and China, they should, as it said, eat the tariffs and not charge valued customers anything. I'll be watching, he said, and so will your customers. Well, President Trump can certainly have an opinion, and he does on many things, and he's not afraid to share them. But I would hope that this is just friendly advice from one successful business person to another. Somebody else weighed in on the idea that Walmart could eat some of its tariffs, and that was Walmart's former CEO, Bill Simon. He ran the Walmart U.S. from 2010 through 2014, and he implied that it would be no problem to do what Trump was suggesting, to eat those tariffs. Simon said that Walmart's business is strong enough to withstand tariff headwinds without increasing its prices, and suggested that the company may just be overstating those challenges that were tied to the tariffs. Well, whether it was influenced by Trump's reaction or not, Home Depot said that it won't be raising prices due to tariffs. Here's what Home Depot reported for the fiscal first quarter compared with what Wall Street was expecting. Home Depot reported their earnings per share at $3.56, a slight miss of the $3.60 that was expected. Revenues came in stronger, $39.86 billion versus $39.31 that was expected, and they held their full-year guidance. Chief Financial Officer for Home Depot said this in a CNBC interview. Because of our scale, the great partnerships we have with our suppliers, and productivity that continue to drive our business, we intend to generally maintain our current pricing levels across our portfolio. Here's why they can do that. According to the Home Depot CFO, more than half of what the company sells comes from the U.S. Home Depot and its suppliers have worked hard to diversify the source of their company's imports over the last several years, including by decreasing the share of purchases that come from China. The CFO went on to say that by this time next year, no single country outside of the U.S. will represent more than 10% of the company's purchases. Home Depot sales are still hampered by sluggish home sales, though, because mortgage rates put a slowdown on the housing industry, and these mortgage rates just topped 7% again. Unfortunately, though, neither Walmart nor Home Depot are biblically responsible. Home Depot still uses company money to fund LGBTQ pride events, and Walmart fails on a number of fronts. They profit from the sale of satanic items like the Satanic Bible, books on spells, satanic jewelry and sculptures, and books with pornographic content. Walmart still funds activities that support abortion and the LGBTQ agenda. So, we don't include them in our investment strategy because we prefer to defund darkness, not to partner with companies who are funding it. And when we're not talking about defunding the darkness, we love to talk about funding the light. Babies and evangelize mothers and fathers in crisis pregnancy, and we hope that you've contributed to our preborn campaign. But we have also joined the fight against darkness, the darkness that goes after our kids, by partnering with Crossroads Kids Club. They are a new partner of ours, but they establish after-school clubs in public schools. Yes, public schools. So in elementary schools, there are after-school clubs that are set up, and volunteers from local churches get involved, and they minister to these children. They teach them Bible stories. They teach them how to read their Bibles, and they teach them about the love of Jesus, most importantly, and the gospel. To find out more about how you can help fund this kind of light, go to reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com. Of course, if you're on our website, the financialissues.org website, you can get right over there and find out more information about how you can fund the light with all of those great opportunities. Well, folks, we are coming up on a break here. We hope that you're going to stick with us, because on the other side of this break, we're going to be back with more financial issues. I'm your host, Shana Burt. Stay tuned.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay or to go, to remain the same or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common: the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
In a time when children are facing unprecedented challenges, the gospel stands as the greatest source of hope. At Crossroads Kids Club, we have the incredible opportunity to bring the message of Jesus into public schools nationwide. Join us in sharing the life-changing hope of the gospel with the next generation. The need is urgent, but God's love is powerful. Together, we can offer Christ's love to children who are longing for it. To join us, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
Every day, thousands of women are faced with the decision of whether to have an abortion. But one ultrasound can change everything. For just $28, you can provide an ultrasound, giving a mother the chance to choose life. To make your gift go even further, a generous donor will match every dollar you give, doubling your impact. Just go to preborn.com/FISM to give now. Again, that's preborn.com/FISM.
& Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only, and do not necessarily represent those of GA Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it, and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Thanks for sticking with us. Let's get started off with the stewardship verse of the day. It comes from Psalm 71:6. By you I have been upheld from birth. You are he who took me out of my mother's womb. My praise shall be continually of you. So because the psalmist recognizes that his very life was given and upheld by God, he trusts in and he praises God. So God is the author, he's the sustainer, and he's the defender of life. So we should see that as good and desire to be like God in the way that he is and in the way that he acts. We have no ability to give life other than to participate in that by being a willing vessel. It is good for us to do what we can to protect and defend life, just like God does. One way that we can do that is we can deploy our dollars into the fight for life. We can use our money as a weapon to make sure that when a mother finds herself in a crisis pregnancy, she has a safe place to turn. She can go to a preborn clinic and she can get an ultrasound. She can see her baby on the ultrasound. She can hear the heartbeat, and so many times when she sees the baby, hears the heartbeat, and hears the life-saving message of the gospel that she gets from one of the people in the preborn clinic, she will choose life for her baby and very possibly eternal life for her. Not only does preborn help save the lives of babies by providing these ultrasounds at no cost to the mother, but they will continue to offer support for up to the first 2 years of the baby's life for things like formula and diapers and, of course, the life-saving words of Jesus Christ. So we are in the midst of our Mother's Day campaign right now. We're trying to raise $280,000 for preborn ministries. We are asking you to underwrite the cost of doing the ultrasound. The cost of one ultrasound is $28. So whether you can do half an ultrasound, a whole ultrasound, or a whole bunch of ultrasounds, we encourage you to make your donation today, because for every $5,400 that we raise, a generous donor is going to purchase one ultrasound machine to be put into these clinics that we're paying for the ultrasounds for. So our goal is to get 50 ultrasound machines paid for, and it gets better. For all of the money that we raise, up to $280,000, a gift will also be made back to financial issues so that we can continue the work that we're doing here in stewardship, helping people, encouraging people to honor God in the way that they invest and in all of their financial investment decisions, and to be joyful, generous, and obedient giver. It helps to expand the megaphone of financial issues so that we can tell more people about the good things that ministries like Preborn and Crossroads Kids Club are doing to fight back against the darkness of this world. Well, Sam, what kind of questions do we have coming in today?
All right, then let's kick things off with, I think it's Suba, that's how you pronounce it. She's 47 years old and says, here's my question. They're also a new partner. They said, I've consolidated all my 401k to one place, and I'm ready to invest as per the growth strategy. While selecting Timothy Plan mutual funds by sector, I noticed a purchase fee for each fund. And is there a more efficient or cost-effective way to diversify across sectors? I appreciate your guidance and support.
Well, that's great. So Suba found us because of someone that she calls her dad in Christ, and she's a new partner to FISM. Maybe she was gifted a partnership. I don't know, but that's one thing that you can do for people. You can introduce them to the ministry. We're on all kinds of social media, so you can go on social media. You can share us with your friends. You can also share us personally with those that you may be mentoring, and we hope that you will. So to answer Suba's question, she's trying to buy some mutual funds on her discount brokerage platform, and there's a purchase fee or maybe a transaction fee for each fund. Now, I'm not sure if she's talking about if she's trying to buy the A share and there's an upfront sales charge. If there is, that's okay. Sometimes, though, when trying to buy I shares, these discount brokerage platforms will charge a transaction fee, and I've heard sometimes that they're close to $50. What I would suggest, if that is the case, to maybe try a different share class. So especially if you're making smaller purchases, if you're making a $500 purchase and you have to pay a $50 transaction fee, that's 10%, and that's really high. So you might want to opt for the A share if you can do that. That'll be a lower upfront sales charge. If it is an iShare, though, maybe you're trying to make large purchases. If you're trying to make large purchases, then a $50 transaction fee is not going to be that prohibitive. What I would suggest, though, is instead of breaking it into smaller purchases, if there's no way for you to avoid that higher transaction fee, is just to go ahead and take your position. At age 47, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that she's got plenty of time ahead of her. So we prefer the dollar cost averaging method, but if it's cost prohibitive, it makes sense just to do it once.
Awesome, Shana. Moving on now to Daryl, who is 65. He says, I'm retired and needing to sell some utilities. He lists quite a few of them in the question, so you can see those, Shana. He says, I listed several parameters and thought I would easily see the ones that I should sell, but instead was confused. Can you tell me what I should look at when making this decision? Since I want the income, my first thought is to sell the ones with the lowest dividend. The new portfolio is awesome. Dan would be proud.
Thanks, Daryl. We appreciate that. We love our new website too. It is proven to be very useful. I like the search features. I like the new user-friendly look. It's a lot easier on the eyes. We used to have a lot of information on one page, and now it's kind of spread out. It's easier to find. So I'm very proud of our website team that did a great job and continues to work on it as well. So the questions about the utility stock. So I see he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different stocks in utilities. I'm assuming he's probably using the growth and income model, so he may have too many. If the focus is on dividends, which he indicates here, then yes, I would start to look at the stocks that pay the highest dividends, since that's a priority, and then make sure that you have good diversification between your industries. Also, if there is a position that represents more than 3 to 5% of your overall portfolio, it may be a good idea to pare that back. And there's a nifty feature on the portfolio tracker that tells you what percentage of your portfolio is concentrated in that one company. So it sounds like you're on the right track. Just keep plugging along there.
Cool. Moving on now to Mark, who, by the way, also says the tracker tool is also awesome. He said, I heard all your explanations on the new commodity sector and impact the materials sector. I just want to make sure that the target for non-commodity materials for the growth and income model is only 1%. I've not seen a sector before with only 1%. Thanks for all you do. Again, he's 63 years old.
Yep, so you are seeing that right. Commodities and materials are sort of similar. We just broke those out recently, and our focus right now is mostly in the commodity sector. We did leave a 1%. We've had 1% before, and I think we still have it allocated towards other, just as kind of a catch-all. So we didn't want you to have to, if you had existing material stocks that were not related to the commodity sector, we didn't necessarily want you to have to sell all of those. So we did leave a percentage there. All right. Is that all the questions?
I think that's all of them. You're the winner today, Shana. You beat it. You beat the questions.
All right. So, yeah, folks, we are a listener and partner supported ministry. We do have this great new website, and it's a great way for you to become your own portfolio manager. So one of the main things that we focus on here, one of our mandates, is defunding darkness, and we call our biblically responsible portfolio strategy defunding darkness, because what we're doing is we're screening out, just like you heard me talk about in the first segment there, the things that companies like Walmart are doing. They're profiting from the sale of satanic Bibles and pornographic materials, and they're funding activities that promote abortion, the LGBTQ agenda. All of those things, are things that we pray against as Christians. So Nothing that we have is our own. Everything belongs to God. Everything that we're given, the money that we invest, the money that we use to put a roof over our heads and gas in our car, all of that is God's money. And ultimately, one day we're going to have to give an account of how we handled that money. So, we don't want to be investing. We don't want to be yoking together with companies who are profiting from darkness. We want to be defunding darkness in the way that we invest. And we want to be using that money, to be joyful, generous, and obedient givers. We call that funding the light. So we did have a partner conference call last week. If you haven't yet had a chance to listen to that, some of your questions may have been addressed on there as well. That is up on our website. You do have to be a partner. Log into your partner account and then go to the conference call page, and you'll be able to listen to that conference call at your own pace. Speaking of your own pace, you can also get all of our shows on podcast, Apple or Spotify. And make sure to download our phone app, because that's the way, we're constantly, as a stewardship ministry, evaluating the outlets that we pay for. So making sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So, it's possible that if you're listening to us on a certain outlet, we may not be there in the future, but we'll always be on our own app. So go to your app store and search for FISM. You'll be able to download that and get all of the shows to stream when it's convenient for you. If you're listening on an outlet that only carries a short version of the show, we hope that you did what I just said so that you can get the whole show. And stay tuned, because we're going to be back with more financial issues. I'm your host, Shana Birch. Stick around.
Each May, we celebrate Mother's Day and the gift that mothers are to us. But for many women carrying a child, motherhood feels uncertain. They're facing fear, doubt, and some are considering abortion. This May, you can help make motherhood possible by supporting Preborn. Preborn partners with clinics across the country, providing free ultrasounds and sharing the hope of Jesus Christ with women who are abortion-minded. When you give to Preborn, you're giving these women a chance to choose life. Just $28 helps a woman hear her baby's heartbeat, a powerful moment that leads 80% of mothers to choose life. And when we come together to sponsor 200 ultrasounds, we'll equip a Preborn clinic with a life-saving ultrasound machine. Will you help make motherhood possible? Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
What separates Crossroads Kids Club from other ministries to reach school-age children? What sets you guys apart?
First of all is our connection with local churches. We mobilize, equip, train, support local church partners. We're right inside the schools. There's a number of ministries that try to serve public school children outside of the school, but we're able to be right there on the campus. Another key thing is just our values. Our highest value is actually relationships. And so we're not a ministry that's driven by a lot of fancy technology or flashy stuff, but rather getting adults who love Jesus and who love kids to sit on the floor with a group of kids, to listen to them, to love them. So I would say the relational emphasis and the simplicity of the model is actually something that makes Crossroads special as well.
Help reach kids with the hope of the gospel. Visit reachOurschools.com.
Welcome back to Financial Issues, everyone. Great to be here with you all today. Hope you enjoyed Shana's comments in the first segment there. As Sam said, yes, she beat the questions. She conquered them. So always good to hear.
She's the champion.
She's the champ, man. She really is the champ. And we're blessed to have her for sure. Hey, speaking of champions, you all doing a great job with our preborn campaign. We've had a couple great days here. We're up to over $113,000. That's over 40% of the way for our preborn dollar for dollar match that we're doing here. We'll talk a little bit more of that in the next segment, but preborn.com/FISM is a place to go if you want to donate now. But right now, folks, I have a special treat, as always. My friend, Craig Haugaard, our Financial Issues ag reporter, one of, if not the most brilliant and handsome and successful people that I've ever met in my life. Craig, great to have you, buddy.
Well, and we really do need to expand your number of friends and people in your life, clearly, but I do appreciate the kind words.
Always, brother. Always. Yeah, we'll never mind how many friends I may or may not have. You're one of the most brilliant, brother. Great to have you, man. Hey, let's start it off. As always, I know you've been coming through your health journey. You've been doing great, brother. I'm excited to hear it. You're running races all over the place like a madman. And so just give our listeners kind of an update on your health. I know so many people have been praying for you, so I'm sure they would love to hear how you're doing.
It's an amazing year. I think we're coming up by June 4th was the start of my first surgery.
Yeah, that was the first procedure, right?
Yeah. So we're rapidly approaching it. It's been a crazy year, but I reflect back on what we've come through. I just feel so blessed. I mean, it's what amazing answers to prayers, and there's one little deal yet to get cleaned out, but it's coming around. And I really, really appreciate the listeners and all their prayers. It's made a huge difference.
Amen. So, absolutely, man. We'll be keeping those prayers coming, brother, for sure, and we appreciate you so much. All right, Craig, let's get to it here, brother. So we received a great question last week from one of our listeners. A listener named Petra called in and left a voicemail on Friday for us. And here's what she said. I'll just kind of summarize what she said. So she says, I enjoy the ag reports because I have an interest in agriculture. My undergraduate work was in that area, agriculture, biology, etc. Though I've never been a farmer, I think that's true for many of us. Many of us probably aren't really into farming, or maybe we have kind of the backyard chicken coop, as you've talked about, Craig. But she says, anyway, my suggestion was that so many people are disconnected from agriculture and how important it is. My primary concern and what got me interested in agriculture at a young age was maintaining our country's food supply within our country and how critical it is that we keep a strong agricultural industry in America and not become dependent on other countries. Perhaps, Craig, you can answer the question, why is this important to the average consumer? Why don't we start there, brother? Why is the ag report important to people like us who aren't farmers?
I think, and it's a brilliantly stated question on her part. It really is something I've contemplated quite a bit. I think in the United States, we are incredibly blessed and have no clue how blessed we are when it comes to food security. I mean, there have been times in the history of our nation where we've had starvation. You can think back to the Pilgrims and their experience, and there's times during the Depression where there was some food insecurity, but literally nobody in our lifetime has experienced it on a massive scale. And I'll be honest with you, it didn't really resonate with me until in 1996, I had an opportunity to go to the country of Kazakhstan, and it was shortly, not long after the Soviet Union had collapsed. And I was brought over there to write a marketing curriculum. They're trying to kind of go between the old Soviet socialism system and into a free market economy. So I was at their National Agrarian University helping them to develop more of a market-based curriculum, understanding free markets and the role of the markets in agriculture, basically. And while I was there, my interpreter, her dad had been one of 21 kids, and during World War II, of course, Grandpa was sent off to the Russian front to fight. Mom and the 21 kids were packed off to a collective farm to raise food for the war effort. Of those 21 kids, 18 of them died of starvation. And she talked about her dad saying that if they even took a hand of wheat for their own use, they'd be shot. And so the way she viewed food and agriculture very, very differently from anything I'd ever been exposed to in the United States. We take for granted there's going to be food on our shelves. We take for granted that we're going to have something to eat, not once a day, but every time we want to eat something, it's magically there. And I think we're no longer in awe of the production process. We no longer see the hand of God in our food production. You drive by cornfields, and I hear, oh, that's boring. But you think about what's going on out there. To plant a field of corn, we use about a fourth of a bushel of corn seed. And that fourth of a bushel is going to probably produce, on average, nationwide, 178 bushels per every acre. I mean, the way in which food is multiplied when we plant it and the design that God has in this thing is incredible. And then you think about just the process of growing it. If it's too wet, we can't get the crop planted, and that would lead to starvation. If it's too dry, the crop's not going to grow, and that would lead to starvation. So I guess my starting spot with this whole thing is a sense of awe and gratitude when you think about the fact that we get to eat every day without really considering that a special treat, right?
Yeah.
I think we've become so spoiled. Before we came on the air, I was sharing with you, Seth, and maybe some of the listeners know, but Laura and I have a couple of daughters in Kenya that we're hoping to meet this summer for the first time, and that's another long miracle. But there's two young ladies that we're putting through college. They were orphaned when they were 1 and 2, and visiting with the one yesterday, she said, I remember when we were praying that we would have food to eat, and now those prayers have all been answered. As a side note, if there's any listeners that are connected in the publishing world, reach out to me because we've got an amazing story here. But anyway, that aside, we're so blessed, and yet I don't think take time to really reflect on the magnitude of the blessing and how really truly rare in the history of the world food security is, and yet we're at a point in history where we enjoy that. I mean, even our poor people in America are fat, and obesity is another issue, but poverty and fatness have generally not tended to go together in the history of the world. So, I don't know if I answered the question, but
I think so, man.
I've thought
a lot
absolutely. About, kind of passionate about.
Yeah, and here's a huge part of it too. As I'm thinking of, I'm just talking through this with you live here. What you just said is something that is unique to us. I think it's something that we don't think about, but it's such a part of our lives. It's like the air we breathe. So the ag report is important for us because it's necessary for our survival. This is the food that we eat, and like you said, boy, what a gift it is to be able to have that food internally grown. Food security, such a huge thing, man. I totally agree with you.
Oh, and you think about it, from a biblical perspective, you go into the Old Testament, and of course we had the 7 years of prosperity followed by 7 years of famine, and then you look at Revelations, and this is an interesting one. People always ask me, where our price is going to go to, and you go to Revelation 6:6, and then I heard a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wages. Well, the average wage in the United States last year was $59,384. So it's $1,142 a week. You divide it by 7, it's $163 a day. There's 2 pounds of wheat. There's 60 pounds of wheat. So basically, when you do the math, it comes out to $4,890 a bushel. Wow. So for the wheat farmers out there, when tribulation hits, that's the upside. Today we're trading at $5 a bushel. So that's the one prognostication I'll get right.
Yeah, there you go.
But it also points to the fact that if you're paying $5,000 for a bushel of wheat, we've got a very, very severe famine, and there will be famine coming. We just happen to be in a really unique place in history, I think, where God is blessing us. We're unlocking some of the secrets that He hid in those seeds to increase productivity but I guess my underlying thought would be thinking about the food process and just being filled with an immense gratitude that food is something we can take for granted.
Absolutely. Craig, this might need to be a conversation that we continue even the next time that we have you on, because I got several more follow-up questions I got to ask you, and we're already almost out of time here. So I just want to thank you so much once again, brother. You've mentioned that before about how just incredibly divine it is that God has created in food the ability to make more food, knowing that it's for our survival. Never mind the fact that he also made it taste good. He didn't have to do that. But the fact that it tastes enjoyable, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing the God we serve. And, Craig, I do think, kind of to bring it full circle, we see the ag report and we see the hand of God in it. It's pointing back to the glory of God. Really is. It's
absolutely,
it's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, there's no question about it. At the end of the day, it just reflects his glory and his majesty in the design of creation.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig, we appreciate you so much as always, brother. I think we'll continue this conversation next time, man, because there's definitely more questions that I have. Some of our listeners asked some questions too, so we'll get those compiled together. I appreciate you so much, brother. Folks, that's Craig Haugaard, our Financial Issues Ag Reporter. You can listen to the Ag Report every day, by the way, on our live show right around this time. Of course, when we have Craig on live, it becomes a live Ag Report, which is very special. More financial issues coming up right after this break. Stick with us.
It's up to us to stand up and say, enough is enough. All of this unbiblical stuff that's going on, whether it's abortion or transsexual or LGBTQ, widespread pornography, human trafficking. Bottom line, it's still up to us. If we stop investing in these corporations that are trying to destroy us, sooner or later they're going to wake up.
To learn more about biblically responsible mutual funds and ETFs, go to timothyplan.com.
Each May, we celebrate Mother's Day and the gift that mothers are to us. This May, you can help make motherhood possible by supporting Preborn. Preborn partners with clinics across the country, providing free ultrasounds and sharing the hope of Jesus Christ with women who are abortion-minded. When you give to Preborn, you're giving these women a chance to choose life. Go to preborn.com/FISM to give today. That's preborn.com/FISM.
Every day, kids all across America are coming to school with some kind of hidden pain.
I've seen kids come in who are just so confused about what's right and what's wrong, just having no idea that God loves them. And this just breaks my heart. Crossroads has the opportunity to bring the Word of God right into the public school, to reach children right where they are.
And when we see that happen, we see God changing lives.
We want to see kids not only come to Christ, but pursue a lifelong relationship with Him. And so local churches are uniquely positioned to disciple those children as they become young adults and through their lifespan.
Crossroads comes alongside a church and provides that church with a club structure, curriculum, training, and ongoing coaching for them to run these outreaches in public schools.
If you are burdened for the children of America, consider making a donation to Crossroads Kids Club. For more information, visit reachOurschools.com. That's reachOurschools.com.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Good to have you all here today, folks. I appreciate the comments in the chat so much. I know there's a lot going on in there for sure. Did see one question for Craig. Daryl from Texas, I apologize. We didn't have time to get to your question. I think there might have been another one also. I need to find where that other question is. But we'll make sure to compile those questions. Next time we have Craig on, I really did want to continue with that conversation there, because it's just very edifying to get to hear Craig's wisdom on it, and really why we do the Ag Report also, folks. It is a financial issue as well. I don't know if you knew this, but food costs money. It costs money. So that kind of, connects to that also. It's such a huge part of the economy. And, once again, just something that we want to keep our eyes on as well.
I think sadly with inflation, Seth, we become more and more aware that food, yes, indeed, does cost money.
And, I do, even for me personally, Sam, it's made me think more about, when Craig speaks on the Ag Report, I'm listening with a little more tuning than perhaps, to be totally honest, than I was, say, in years past. Just because now we're seeing food prices having gone gone up so much. So that's definitely true there. Sam, I was fascinated too from earlier in the show. You and Shana had some good comments. It was really more Shana, but talking about some of the stuff that's happening with Walmart, man. We studied this last week when we looked at our top 10 quote BRI stocks, which weren't actually BRI. Actually, it was earlier this week. But apparently, they're also selling satanic books.
I actually said that to her during the break. It's like, you got to be kidding me. Walmart is selling satanic Bibles. She's like, yes, indeed they are. She spoke with Timothy Plan about that, and they confirmed that. And my mind just went back to that conversation we had earlier in the week. This website had the gall to say that Walmart is a top 10 stock that biblically responsible investors should invest in. It's just insane. And it just goes to show, as BRI becomes more popular, you're going to have more outlets grifting onto this topic, try to snooker people in, and they just don't know what they're talking about.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And, some people will say, well, yeah, but they're also selling Christian books. That's like saying this glass of water is great. It's half water, half engine coolant. You'll be fine. No, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I'm glad you guys mentioned that, Sam. No, it was really good stuff. We did get a question here, Sam. Let's get to this one from Will, who's asking about the buy list.
Will says the new buy list spreadsheet and filtering is very helpful. Well, thank you, Will. I've heard a lot about this. So many comments are saying they love the new website and especially the filter section for the buy list. He says for style, the filter options are income and growth. Dan also had a foundational class. I'm an income investor, but excuse me, I'm getting a little lost here. I'm an income investor, but also buy foundational stocks. I particularly like the foundational income stock combination. What is the reason that the foundational class is currently not identified? Will the foundational class return?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're loving the website. That's awesome. As for the question of will it return, I can't speak to that as well as Shana can, so I'll leave that for her. But I can tell you the reason that the foundational class is currently not identified is pretty simple. Shana has said this before on the show, and I'll just repeat it. We want you to get into the habit of treating the majority of your holdings as foundational. So if you are invested in a company, it's not like certain companies are going to be extra foundational where you're like, okay, I'm definitely holding this for 10 years or more. We want you to treat all the companies that way. We want you to treat all the holdings that way. We want you to be long-term, good, solid investors. That's a strategy that works. And so that was part of the reason why we went away with that. Not because there's anything wrong with foundation, actually because there's everything right with it. Because we want you to be able to see your whole portfolio as I'm sticking with this, I'm trusting this, I'm making the necessary moves, but I'm in this for the long term. And once again, I can't stress enough how important it is to know that 8 to 10 year number we say is not the finish line. That's you've made it here, that you've made it to the minimum mark. You've just
I'm glad you clarified that, Seth, because we actually had a comment a while ago where someone seemed to believe that, okay, reach the 8 to 10 year mark. Now I have to sell out and start all over. And that's just not the way it works.
Exactly. You want to build off of that. You want this to be something that you can hold for decades. So that's kind of why, Will. I would love to hear Shana's thoughts more. And maybe we'll tee this question up for her also. But I hope that can be helpful for you there.
Would it be fair to say that the concern is that by labeling things as foundational, it makes certain stocks seem more important than other stocks?
I would think so. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly you do have to have kind of that comprehensive look in your portfolio of certain like small cap, mid cap, large cap, different. There's differences for stocks to be sure, but it shouldn't affect your mindset of how long I'm going to hold this. Your goal should be I'm holding this for as long as I can. And of course, if something happens, sell alert. If there's something that's foundationally wrong with the company, if it's non-biblically responsible, then you'll adjust. But I think that tends to be a good kind of way to go about it. So, Will, it's a good question, man. I appreciate you asking. Folks, just want to remind you one more time again, preborn.com/FISM. That is the place to go. We are trying to raise $280,000 for Preborn. I've said this before and I will say it again. If you love FISM, do not give a single cent to FISM this month, okay? Don't donate to us, please. People are going to be like, I'm sure there's even people on staff right now are saying, what's going on? No, do not donate to us.
It's reverse psychology, Seth,
that's right. I'm trying to convince them. No, here's why. If you donate to FISM, say you have $500, you give $250 to FISM, $250 to Preborn. That's great, but that's only $250 to us and $250 to them. If you give it all to Preborn, then we also get $500 from a matching donor. So your gift ends up being worth $1,000. Give it all to Preborn. preborn. Give it all to preborn. Give every cent to preborn, not just because of the matching gift. That is a wonderful thing for us, but also because you care about the gospel and you love babies and you want them to come to know Jesus Christ and to be, first of all, to have the chance at life, and second of all, to have the chance to grow up with a mother and potentially a father as well, who not only loves them, but loves Christ, who loves them enough to not kill them in the womb, and then who loves them even more enough to be able to teach them about Jesus Christ, because they themselves, the mothers and fathers, have learned about Jesus through the discipleship that preborn provides. Preborn's doing all of this. They're doing all of it. They're doing amazing work. Preborn.com/FISM. Again, we're 40% there, folks. I can't stress enough. Now is the time to give. We've got about a week and a half left in this campaign. So if you've got year-end giving, even if it's in a non-conventional way, giving from your IRA, do it. Send it all to preborn. Just send it all to him. Write him a blank check. Send him your credit card. No, give as the Lord leads. Absolutely. And let me just say as well, we're so thankful for every single gift. If you've only given $28, if you can just underwrite one ultrasound scan, that could be a potentially life-saving scan, just so you know. So don't begrudge that gift just because it's smaller in number than some other gifts are. Really is amazing. We're so thankful. To quote the great sage, Seth Udinsky, if you love preborn, give to preborn. That's right. If you love FISM, give to preborn. We should put that on a shirt. Just say every May we break this shirt out. Yeah, if you love FISM, give to preborn. If you love preborn, give to preborn. That's good stuff. Thank you, Sam. Well, let's move to the markets here now, folks. So yesterday didn't move much further from the flat line, and they finished negative territory, but it was hardly negative at all. The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ were each down less than 0.25%, between the quarter and fifth percentage points there. Let me look real quick here and see where the markets are sitting this morning. Excuse me, the Dow Jones is down about 0.7. The S&P 500 is down about 0.4, and the NASDAQ is down about a quarter or so. Treasury yields up a little bit here this morning, up above 4.51. That's for the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield. Oil is still hanging around the $62.50 a barrel number. So that's what we're seeing there on Wall Street here, folks. Let's move here, Sam, to a couple of headlines here quick. We might only be able to have time for one of these ones. We'll have to save maybe the other one for tomorrow. But let's move over to the Far East, Sam, quickly here and see what's going on with Japan and their relationship with the United States. One of our allies, by the way. Of course, what's going on there? And they are certainly playing hardball with these tariff negotiations. They are continuing with Japan, demanding zero tariffs from the United States. This comes as the Trump administration has suggested, at least it seems, that 10% baseline tariffs will remain regardless of any deal. Japan's not liking that so much. Japan says it's in no rush to make a deal, however, and could be having its third round of negotiations with the U.S. this Friday. We'll have to see what comes of that. You have to remember, with these Eastern countries, they're very concerned about saving face. That's true with pretty much every country when it comes to negotiations, but it's particularly true with countries like Korea, Japan. We've also seen it quite a bit with China. So it's possible that they're making statements and then behind the scenes are having much warmer conversations. We'll just have to wait and see what the results of that will be. Meanwhile, Trump also claimed last week that India is offering a zero tariff deal with the U.S., though India does say that nothing has officially been agreed to as of yet. Interesting stuff, Sam. I can't help but wonder if the big bad monster lurking in the shadows over in the Far East, China, if that has anything to do with Japan's forward-facing kind of attitude with this. As we said earlier, I mean, the United States and Japan have actually historically, ever since World War II, have historically been very good friends. So I would agree. I'm sure that things are getting worked out behind the scenes there. I don't know what it's like to live just miles off the coast of communist China. So interesting stuff there for sure. Especially with the history those two countries. Yeah, exactly. So exactly. It didn't start just yesterday. There's been tension for a long, long time. That's exactly right. Well, folks, I do want to encourage you, as Shana mentioned earlier in the show, that we do have a conference call up from last week. I hope that you'll take a listen to that conference call. There's a lot of good stuff in there. Shana gives some great insight, of course, answers partner questions. So if your question, there's a chance that your question may have been answered in the conference call. So that's just all the more reason to go and listen to it as well. Always great to be here with you folks on Financial Issues. It's a joy to be here, and God willing, we will do it again tomorrow. I do know tomorrow at some point we'll have Twyla Braze joining the program. So I'll remind remind you of that again in the first part of the show tomorrow. But make sure to get your questions queued up. If you have questions for Twyla as well, we'll make sure to get those included also. God bless you all. Hope you have a great rest of the day today. And Lord willing, we'll do it again tomorrow. It's all His. Remember, let's be found good and faithful stewards with what God has given to us. See you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.